So Tom is going to lead off with a Gengar, which is a rare lead nowadays because of the prevalence of Pursuit Tyranitar leads. What this suggests to me is that Tama is likely running an offensive team based around baiting in Tyranitar, removing it with Dugtrio, and then reaping the benefits of having Tyranitar gone. For example, if you change the weather, then Arrest Suicune or Snorlax is a million times harder to kill. Rain Dance Kingdra won't have its sweep interrupted by sand. Or Superachi could just sweep because you might want Tyranitar gone. Or you might want Blissey gone. And Gengar and Dugtrio are also good at ganging up on Blissey with Explosion into Earthquake, killing it always. It can even run Hypnosis, the Gengar, to ensure that Tyranitar, or not ensure, but give itself odds of not necessarily having to trade with the Tyranitar. Because if you trade Gengar for T-Tar and your team is based around T-Tar dying, then sure. But if you can keep Gengar around, then those offensive traits, the speed, the resistances, and the various offensive tools, then those can, of course, be crucial. So I think it's very unlikely that this is just a defensive team leading off their very important defensive Will-O-Wisping Gengar. So McMeghan is going to lead off with the Suicune. So this is either a balanced team, could be balanced, could be hardstyle with a bulky Suicune, or it could be an offensive team with an offensive Suicune, possibly very much like what we suspect Tama to be running. So let's get started. Tama elects to Hypnosis the Suicune, and that's risky business, especially since Suicune gets a Calm Mind, and now he has no choice but to do it again. Because the first turn he could have Thunderbolted and kind of found out the spread and sussed out some information that way. But now he's in some trouble, especially if it misses again, as Hypnosis is known to do. So he does get the sleep off. Now he's forced to go to his counter, because if he just spams Thunderbolt, that is a recipe for disaster. Unless he gets lucky. And he shows Ludicolo, so there's the Rain, there's the T-Tar's Dead Abuser. And a pretty good Suicune check. Of course, if it's purely offensive Ludicolo, then it's quite likely that it just gets stalled out, honestly. And Suicune wakes up, and is it offensive? Is it defensive? It Calm Minds again. Can't tell, but it's faster than the Ludicolo. Of course, this might not mean anything, because, ignore the fact that you just saw Leech Seed. Suicune's base speed, without investment, if it is a bulky Suicune, is 206, and all you need with Ludicolo is 198 with Swift Swim to outrun Aerodactyl and Jolteon, the fastest things in the tier, in Rain. So it's very possible that it could just be a bulkier offensive Ludicolo. However, Leech Seed suggests defense. So it could be the Rain Dance. Well, Rain Dance, obviously, but Rain Dish set, which is pretty much a great Suicune counter. In the short term, of course, because pressure with Leech Seed. But McMeghan shows Surf and no Ice Beam, so this is going to be a defensive Suicune. Now Tama lands the Leech Seed, and Suicune is going to be forced out, for now at least. If Tama doesn't have a better response, then he might be in for a rough game. So now he goes to Blissey, definitely running a bulky team. But it is offensive, so I think what this is might be an offensive-defensive Ludicolo. The standard set is Rain Dance, Hydro, Ice Beam, HP Grass, because Stab HP Grass is really nice for pushing through Suicune and Starmie, which Kingdra can sometimes struggle with. And of course, Swampert. But Leech Seed is nice as a kind of compromise, because something like Milotic or bulky Suicune might stall out HP Grass anyway, so this gives it early game utility. So I kind of like that. I've never seen that before, but I do enjoy it. Tama risks a Toxic or a Thunder Wave, just totally ruining him to get a Leech Seed off. Not sure about that one, but luckily just eats an Ice Beam. And he's going to do it again. Really forcing the issue, but I don't think McMeghan is packing either status move, because he Ice Beams and then Seismic Tosses. Doesn't amount to much because the Leech Seed has healed most of the health, but he's already taken a lot of Leech Seeds, because he landed 4 on Suicune thanks to pressure, and then 2 on Blissey. So now he's spamming Ice Beam, just trying to suss out the team, but McMeghan's not revealing anything else because he has the Suicune to go to safely, and he can even stay in and burn a turn, force more Leech Seeds. But it is HP Grass. That is peculiar. I gotta admit, I've never seen that. Because the last move, I mean, I don't imagine it's Rain Dance without a water move, so I think it's just 3 attacks Leech Seed. Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. So he's going to do that again. He actually can hit the Suicune now that it only has 1 HP grass. Doesn't want to risk anything because he doesn't have to. He can afford to play it safe, so he goes to Blissey, and it's really getting those drained by its Leech Seed PP drained. So it's already down to 9, and I mean he's not doing nothing. He's going to force Blissey to waste some PP, which could be crucial if he is running, or if he is going for the long game. And now Blissey reveals Wish. Now it's almost certain that it is going to be Wish soft-boiled, not Wish Protect, because that gives Blissey depth. It helps it heal its teammates without being reliant on 2 turns to heal itself. For example, if Skarmory wins you in, and you have to Wish to heal yourself, then you're never going to get that Wish. The turn you throw it up, it's just going to whirlwind you out again, and then you have to like hope you manage to come in the next turn to receive it, and then you're taking more spikes damage, and it's just a mess. So Soft Boiled gives it reliability, while Wish gives it the amazing teammate healing that you go for when you use Wish. So Mirror B's favorite Pokemon is really just staying in here and making sure that McMeghan does not try to drain more PP with HP Grass. That's intelligent of him. And he's, I mean, he's burning some wishes, burning some attacking PP. I can't foresee what we assume to be an offensive team, the Ice Beam PP, really mattering that much. But McMeghan knows that Seismic Toss is not going to get him anywhere, so he may as well go for the Ice Beam Freezes. And he's got a bulky team, so he probably has something else that can also handle it. So Gengar comes in as McMeghan finally decides to switch. Ice Beam or HP Grass would not do anything to Metagross, and he can continue his pivoting. Now, Gengar versus Metagross is interesting. I mean, if you're living on the edge, you can just go for Hypnosis, but because Meteor Mash can also miss, but that's pretty risky. So this is really a matter of how they want to play it. If McMeghan wants to be safe, he can go to Blissey because he can't both sleep it and go to Dugtrio at the same time, and Dugtrio without Sand is going to struggle against a defensive Blissey, especially with 2 healing moves. Plus, if it's bulky, it can live Ice Beam, so you can just spam crits, but then that might... it's not the ideal situation. You wouldn't want to force it. It doesn't look like he has to force it at this point, and McMeghan decides, I'm going to force him to hit Hypnosis, and Metagross goes to sleep, so I don't know about that. Well, I mean, he's just bravely staying in, not fearing Dugtrio. I guess the odds mean that he can wake up. Then Tama goes to his own Metagross as McMeghan decides he doesn't want to take this barrage of Thunderbolts and goes to Blissey. So Metagross is an intelligent pick there because while Dugtrio is a T-Tar check, it is not really a great switch into it at all times, and Tyranitar helps against that as well as against Aerodactyl, while keeping up an offensive onslaught. So, I think Blissey could have switched into that Hypnosis, kind of sussed him out, and because it's likely that since he's running such a bulky team, then he has some other switches to suss things out. Like he's gonna have to have a plan for spikes, so Claydol is very likely. So like Blissey on Hypnosis and then Claydol the next time would have been a reasonable move, especially since Claydol, if he's not facing spikes, which I very much doubt he is, unless he's got a Cloyster in there somewhere, which would still be kind of weird, then I think that it's less useful against this kind of offensive team, since you got Suicune and Blissey, or Suicune and Metagross for defensive stuff, and Wish Blissey to keep him healthy. So he goes to Suicune on the free mash, and Tama gets the attack boost. However, Suicune is still faster, so this is a bulky Metagross, but it doesn't have lefties. Which also, remember the 198 principle, it could be a bulky Agiligros. And you want bulk on it because sometimes it's going to have to take an EQ from Mence or something. So, could be the same idea. He is going to rest. Earthquake does a lot, but without Sand, it's not going to be a 3 KO, and Suicune's pressure racks up fast. So he's going to decide, I'm not even going to take those. He's going to reveal his Salamence. Now, I believe I know what team he's running. It is Magneton and Claydol last. This is a team I made a couple months ago. So this is a choice band Mence, but even this is not just me trying to brag. I don't really like to do that, but it just makes sense because remember, these guys need a spikes plan. Claydol makes sense, And then you might want to go the Magneton route, because with these four, the Suicune, Blissey, Metagross, Claydol trio, you know, Heracross is just going to rip you apart. And how do you check Heracross and provide offense? Well, Salamence, who also loves Wish Blissey for keeping it healthy against things like Leech, Celebi, and Heracross. And then Magneton, of course, makes it more of a threat by removing Skarmory, so it's just kind of intuitive. So he pivots into the Earthquake, threatens it with a Choice Band Earthquake, and Tama, running an offensive team, cannot really afford to switch into Choice Band Mence. So McMeghan thinks he's going to preserve the Metagross since it's such an offensive threat. It might blow up on Suicune later, so he's going to go to Gengar to try and keep some offense going. And goes for HP Flying, but he gets taken out by the Meteor Mash, so very, very risky move by Tama, but it worked out. Generally, you really can't afford to give Mence too many turns, so... And it was especially risky because it's not like he could really punish McMeghan for going for Earthquake, so... if he did decide to do that. So that was a very nice move by Tama. So Magneton's here for the follow-up, knowing it's going to be faster, and it doesn't take it out. So that's got to be one of those bulky Magnetons. But he gets the full para. That really, really blows. So Tama, unfortunately, honestly, that was like 2 more kills, because he takes out Magneton, and then later he comes in on a Blissey heal or like a sleeping Suicune and just blows something up. So that was really unfortunate. And now Tama reveals the Tyranitar, not revealing the Dugtrio, strangely enough, so he might just not have it and just have Ludicolo for its support capabilities. He does Dragon Dance, though, because Metagross is sleeping, Suicune is also sleeping via rest, and the Intimidator is dead, and the Claydol last is going to stand in its way, because it can only get the 1 DD. So he burns the Lum and then switches to Claydol. So it's like he switched to Claydol, but the Tar no longer has Lum. So that was a good move from McMeghan. And now he's got a cat. I really hope this better not have HP Bug. And he's just forced to go for the Earthquake, chunks the Ludicolo. So it's likely it's one of those offensive Claydol that are meant to really outrun and smack Tyranitar trying to pursue them, which is crucial because that's one of the few avenues Gengar teams have at keeping their spikes against Magneton Claydol teams. So Mag is sent in as an interim measure against Ludicolo, not wanting Blissey to be too free of an avenue for the Tyranitar, you know, giving it Leech Seed and whatnot. So I think he's trying to pivot in Blissey on the water move so that it's not just an uncontested Seismic into T-Tar being healthy. Although if it's not HP Bug, I'm not sure if it's such a big threat. So maybe he's just trying to... Yeah, so I think that Magneton... I don't really have a strong opinion on that Magneton thing, but I guess he got Blissey in without giving Ludicolo the Leech, and that's extra Leech PP, so well done. Ludicolo's Leech is actually far more annoying now that Sand is up, since it really means that Blissey, and especially Suicune, can't really switch around it as much as they would like. So, he gets that extra Leech Seed off, and Ludicolo is getting so much health back from the massive leeches against Blissey that it doesn't really matter. And the thing is that he can't really even switch to Suicune if it spams HP Grass. He does! That was really, really ballsy. I'm not sure why he didn't even just HP Grass just to force it. I mean, Gengar against Suicune with no sleep turns burned is nice, but, you know, the stab HP Grass against the Suicune without the Calm Mind, it's actually really going to hurt. So, and then he could have resumed his... Now Suicune's healthy. I mean, it's still sleeping, and he's not going to want to take this Thunderbolt, but... yeah, I think that was kind of a waste. So, and he goes right for the Explosion. Very nice move on Tama's end. I don't think many players would have made that move. Because once Blissey comes in on the safe T-Bolt, then it has very viable options in pivoting out to Claydol or Magneton for the Explosion. Or even, you know, he could have even gone straight to Magneton. And maybe that would have been better. Since Hypnosis, Gengar is very unlikely to run Fire Punch. So, and it doesn't look like he's got a Dugtrio, so he had a free T-Bolt opportunity. So maybe Magneton was better there, because now Blissey's down and things could get rough. So, Swampert comes in. So this is going to be an offensive Swampert almost surely. Suicune handles it well, but the problem is now the Ludicolo. So, I guess Tama hydroed there to predict... Well, I'm not sure about that, because the clear move there is Ludicolo, and switching back to Claydol doesn't do anything unless you think he's going to try to bait the... he's going to try to bait Ludicolo into staying in so he can blow up on it, since Magneton Claydol teams don't really need refresh on Claydol, so they often run Explosion. But it's... yeah, I'm not sure about that one, because you can just switch back to Swampert, and if it blows it up, who cares? Ludicolo is the threat. Plus, then the T-Tar check is down, so I'm not sure about that Hydro at all. I don't think that was a good prediction. And the other reason is, if you think he's going to go to Magneton and you don't want to face off against it and potentially get HP Grass on the switch, why not just Earthquake? Because if he goes back to Claydol, then, you know, who cares? And he's not going back to Claydol. I mean, if he does, then you're in the same situation you were before, so I don't think it was worth predicting that, especially because now Suicune, I mean, 17% lasts in Sand, but now you gave it an extra sleep turn, so I don't know about that one. I mean, the miss sucked, but I think he would have gotten fine without it, because the combination of HP Grass and the Water move is really tough to switch into now. And he just Hydro Pumps and Magneton survives once. So, and the Magneton is faster than the Ludicolo, but it's also bulky, so that's pretty, that's an interesting Magneton. That's also why it didn't, it doesn't have that much special attack, because it didn't even kill, probably not max HP Metagross with Thunderbolt from 45. So he goes for the T-Wave, and Pert comes in. So is he going to check for HP Grass with Pert? He is going to check for HP Grass with Pert, and covers the Suicune switch with Ludicolo. That was very intelligent. And now he can just spam HP Grass, because if Metagross comes in, who cares? Although, actually, McMeghan wakes up that turn. See the difference if he had that extra, if he didn't give him that extra sleep turn, and the reward just wasn't worth it. It was just too unlikely to actually come to fruition. So, interesting Claydol switch there. I think he was expecting Leech Seed, but and he wanted to waste one, but I feel like at this point you kind of have no choice but to, you know, burn it here. Burn it with Suicune. Just keep Calm Minding and let pressure do its magic. And Tama makes a nice move there. So a lot of players, when pivoting around things, then and they have like a free KO with the 100% move, then they'll try to pivot to the thing that normally wouldn't come into it, but would in this instance, because it's going to be hit with the coverage move, because the other guy doesn't want to miss the Pokemon that he has a free KO on, and Tama very smartly capitalized on. Basically, Metagross would never switch into Hydro Pump from Claydol, because you have Ice Beam and HP Grass to take it out, but since the Claydol is in death range, then he could do it, and Tama made a nice move regarding that, especially since Meta had 2 HP Grass turns, sleep turns, so it was even had a decent odds of waking up. So that was a nice way for Tama to really step on the comeback attempt. And McMeghan's not giving up, and that HP Grass manages to finish off the Magneton pivot. So that's actually kind of amazing. So at this point, it looks like Ludicolo is just going to win on its own. Yup, he can't rest. He had to go for the Calm Mind, and that's going to be it, as McMeghan forfeits, and that is game 1. So, let's get into game 2. Leads. Tama with a Zapdos. Zapdos could be offensive or defensive, and each set would go with a respective team. Although an offensive set could go on a bulkier Spikes team, but that team would be more centered around having Zapdos rain death down on the opponent with its massive beefy Thunderbolts with Spikes in Sand, rather than really walling things. It just wants the defensive backbone. McMeghan leads off with Suicune, so same deal. So Suicune obviously has to hurry out of there, and in comes Blissey again. So Zapdos is going to Baton Pass, since Suicune is likely to have needs to have a solid Zapdos switch. Like, sometimes against, when Zapdos is facing, like, Metagross, then you might just go for the T-Bolt, because they might not, have a real switch. Like, they're going to have to pivot around it with, like, Swampert, T-Tar, Jirachi, and I know Swampert doesn't get hit by T-Bolt, but it also has to run away from HP Grass, so you can just kind of do it again and get that damage in on that check that doesn't really deal with T-Bolt that well. But if you're leading off with Suicune, you know you have to run away and have a hard counter to Zapdos. There's no, like, I can preserve my Metagross, or I can potentially keep my Metagross in, so it's not as cut and dry. That was a little convoluted, I think, but I hope I got the point across. Basically, Suicune is so afraid of Zapdos that it has to switch out, and thus it has to have a hard counter alongside it, or at least a decent counter, where something like Metagross, which is not necessarily afraid to stay in on Zapdos, it's not as likely to switch out. So you might want to go for that Thunderbolt, because you might want to be bringing that Zapdos down, or that Metagross down for your DD Mence or your Aerodactyl or your T-Tar or whatever. Metagross is just one example. It might also be like a mixed Tar or something. Yeah, I hope that was clear. So Tama abused the fact that Suicune has to go to a hard counter by baton passing right away rather than testing the waters with Thunderbolt, because he knew, you know, I can T-Bolt, but that's just probably going to give him a stop. It's going to give his stop a free switch, while if I go with Baton Pass, then I get to keep my momentum up. And that was correct. So Celebi comes in. Blissey does not want to give Celebi free setup, especially if it could Baton Pass. So he goes to Gyarados, which intimidates any SD Pass stuff and is not necessarily afraid of Calm Mind, because it can DD HP Flying and it's very bulky. But he just goes for Leech Seed. That doesn't eliminate Calm Mind yet, but it makes it less of an immediate threat, because it's almost surely not going to Baton Pass. And the fact that we see Suicune, Blissey, Gyarados, this is another really bulky team. So it's going to be defensive. You're going to have your anti-Scar measures, the whole shebang. So it goes for HP Grass, and that makes it even less likely that it's Calm Mind, and just definitely not going to be a Baton Passer. Because Leech Seed, Calm Mind, HP Grass, Recover is not a set. I mean, it can be, but just Psychic is just so overall superior, because with Mono Grass, Calm Mind coverage, you just open yourself up to totally be unable to do anything against Heracross and Salamence, two big Celebi counters. And you're worse against Snorlax as well. So, generally Psychic is preferred. So he is going to go for that Leech Seed again on the Blissey. And this is going to be kind of like the last game, actually. As this time, McMeghan's got a different set, though. He's got the Thunder Wave, and not sure that was worth revealing, but I guess revealing it doesn't really do much. But he kind of scares the Celebi a little, because now that it's slower, then Suicune isn't afraid of HP Grass, and it can just kind of pressure the Leech Seeds. So Suicune goes for a Calm Mind, and after a Calm Mind with no Sand, then it's free to stay in on Zapdos and find out some information. Now, the Zapdos is faster, because it is a defensive Suicune from how little it took from Thunderbolt, but it's also, Zapdos is also defensive because of how little it did with T-Bolt and how little it took from Surf. So Zapdos is still going to win this exchange in the long run, especially with Celebi as backup. But, information. So if Suicune goes on a Calm Minding rampage later, then Zapdos may not be able to stop it. Of course, that shouldn't be for a while if it comes to that, though. Zapdos goes for the Toxic, hits the Blissey, and now he's free to Thunderbolt a little, or Baton Pass to keep up momentum, and there comes Doug. And that was really nice. It could still be Rest last. That is an underrated set if it's defensive. But yeah, I like that because, you know, by T-Bolting Blissey, he's seen 2 waters so far, and he wants to see what else he has for Zapdos, because if Blissey's the only anti-Zapdos thing you got, then that's exploitable, like with Dugtrio, or with Spikes, or just by giving a million switches to a dangerous Pokemon like Heracross. So, provided there's not something like a Dugtrio for Hera and Meta and T-Tar, and even something like a Calm Mind Jirachi. So, Doug comes in on Celebi. This is, of course, a very risky game because bulky Celebi often runs HP Grass with enough special attack for Doug. But maybe this is a bulky Dugtrio, bulked out for Blissey Ice Beam. And, yeah, it's really down to spreads at this point. And he doesn't come close to KOing, and the HP Grass takes him out. So I think that was really a waste. This better be like HP Ice or something. Maybe I underestimated how, yeah, it does look like HP Ice. Maybe I underestimated the Zapdos damage to Suicune after a Calm Mind. Let's assume Timid because Timid goes with HP Ice. Oh, it's +1 Zapdos. Silly me. What, 44? Or 42? Okay, so maybe Suicune has some defensive investment. And maybe Zapdos isn't fully max special attack, but I underestimated Suicune. So that is an offensive Zapdos, which makes the purely stopping Leech Celebi as a wall weird, because generally on these teams Celebi wants to keep up offensive momentum, not really sink it. So that was odd, I suppose. But yeah, it's more of an offensive thing. And now his Doug's gone, and I think it was hasty. Celebi wasn't really threatening him, so I think that was really unnecessary. And now here comes Milotic. So I mean, he's got the offensive Zapdos and then the super defensive core with bulky Celebi and Milo. So this is going to be a long game, given these two. So we're gonna put it on fast. So with the 2 natural cures and the rest Suicune and honestly even rest Gyarados, then this is going to be a long one, since Milo is pretty unkillable, but it also doesn't kill back. McMeghan's also very likely to be running a Magneton or a Claydol, or both, because Gyarados does the same thing Salamence does, checks Heracross offensively. Of course, he also probably wants a sturdier rock check, since Claydol is, of course, not that sturdy, even with 2 water types, since one of them is, of course, weak to rock. And Tama reveals Registeel, which is out there, so I think that last must be Magneton or something. Not from McMeghan, we expected that, but from Tama. Because otherwise, Skarmory is just going to completely destroy the entire team. So yeah, this is mostly McMeghan's game, just switching out and forcing Tama to burn PP. And eventually he's going to get that Suicune set up, and that's his way of forcing Tama to attack so we don't go into an endless game. It's forcing Zapdos to, forcing Zapdos and Celebi to waste PP against Suicune, and then burning it, so. I mean, I don't think that Toxic was eating that Toxic with Suicune was super necessary, but I mean, because he has Celebi, and now he risks a crit, oh no. But I think pretty much, unless luck, I don't see it mattering much. Thomaseem just can't do damage. I mean, he goes for the anti-Skarm things, and then Curse Registeel or something, but it's just not going to get past this team, I don't think. And he's really chancing this Suicune. He is feeling very brave. Especially because now he has to retreat and give Zapdos a lot of leftovers recovery, and I don't think he needed to do that. I mean, Tama also has a lot of longevity with his combined 64 recovers from Celebi and Milotic. But I don't know. I think that was a little risky from McMeghan, but I mean, he got out of it alive, so. I guess beating down Zapdos also helps Gyarados sweep. So there is that. It's not like Suicune's the only way that he can win. So Blissey's not trying to force lefties or waste soft boileds, and Magneton really likes Tama not having a Doug anymore. So he's really overloading on that paralysis. And even the Mag has lefties as opposed to Magnet for the assured Skarm kill. I guess he's fine playing the long game as long as Skarm eventually goes down. That was a really nice move. Just switching Suicune into the Zapdos against the Blissey. I really like that. Because he can't be cavalier with throwing out T-Bolts against Blissey because it'll waste PP and he might get T-Waved. So that was very nice, and he got Suicune in there to burn a sleep turn against anything else. So that was inventive. I mean, because this game, there's not too much to delve into besides the obvious. Oh, also McMeghan has to be careful with his Blissey's PP. But yeah, I think that was very nice. The atmosphere was just totally ruined by this dumb ad. Yeah, squeeze me. I know just how corny that sounded, but whatever. Alright, he's going for it again. He's really trying to bring that Zapdos down. He's managed to get himself in this situation twice, and he's not going to risk the Zapdos. And he's going to preserve it by going to Celebi. And the damage, the PP Celebi has to actually do damage and do anything against the Suicune is quickly dwindling, so. I wonder if it's DD Rest Gyarados. I think that would probably make sense. I mean, he might even have Heal Bell on the Celebi. But yeah, Magneton is kind of an offensive threat in and of itself because it's a nice way to waste PP. Kinda. Alright, so now Gyara is in, it's taking nothing, so I gotta think it's bulky and it's just not taking any, and it might be rest, so he's not really getting too far with the Gyara as Tom makes a great move there, preventing Zapdos from taking damage, and he even goes back to Milotic. So McMeghan's now pressing him with that Gyarados. And he goes for the DD. As he expects Tama to pivot out more, being afraid of the Surf, and that, yeah, that +2 HP flying does nothing because Milotic's Marvel Scale makes it even more unkillable. And he is going to eat the Toxic. So now he's on a timer, or at least he's going to be forced to rest. In a longer game such as this, I don't think it's really going to matter, but he goes to +4. And he gets the crit, that's nasty, and the para, so that's where all that para spamming comes in. And he even earthquakes as Tama tries to pivot around it and force toxic damage with Registeel. So that was nicely done by McMeghan, although bad luck for Tama because he needed the crit and the para. Or I guess he could have, he had a couple turns to get either of those things, but it's still not a very high percentage thing. I mean, if he doesn't get it, then he just rests up. So, Zapdos into Magneton prevents, baits more toxic damage, and then you can't rest on the Magneton, and it also had Protect, so he smartly switches out to Celebi and decides to bring it back to a weaker state, or a slower state, and he does have Heal Bell on the Celebi. So, he manages to HP Grass the Zapdos on the switch, so he's really bringing it down for the two waters, but, I don't know if Tama's giving up or what, because he can totally waste these. I guess he was just trying to get a crit or something. And McMeghan's Magneton is faster and HP fires the Mag, and Tama's going to call it there, so we are going to game 3. Alright, so, game 3. Lead, Tyranitar. Well, this could be anything. Lead, Snorlax. Not a common lead these days, thanks to the influx of Metagross and Tyranitar, and even Skarmory. But I guess that with all the Zapdos lead that are common these days, then it's not a bad choice. Also, Suicune. So Snorlax has to run away like heck from this. And in comes Milotic. We're seeing a lot of her this series. Rock Slide Miss. Alright, so it could be Choice Band Tar, and it would have forced a recover from Milo. That kind of sucks, but you're probably going to get chances later. I mean, this could be a double trap team from McMeghan. You know, Lax, Milo, Mag, Trio, and then fillers like Suicune. Well, not Suicune if there's Milotic, but like Celebi and Salamence and even Claydol and what have you. Jirachi and Metagross also good options with those. So, and Milotic just can fire off a Surf here, and here we see a really strange turn in which Tama predicts the switch to Snorlax, as in the double back, and McMeghan just surfs. I don't think that was a good move from Tama at all. Here's why. So, Milotic switch-ins are stuff like Celebi, Zapdos, Snorlax, Skarmory sometimes, Blissey. But here's the thing. If it's Zapdos, you want information on whether it's bulky or not. If it's offensive, like offensive checks like Snorlax and Sand or Zapdos, you want to be hitting them with Surfs. You want to wear them down, put them in uncomfortable positions to where they, in Snorlax's case, they have to blow up early, and that makes it more predictable, and therefore you can sack the right thing, or absorb it with a Ghost or something, or like a really bulky Steel. Or, you know, if it's Zapdos, then later it can't switch into your Surf, and that makes Milotic even more of a weapon. You know, Milotic putting things on offensive teams on a timer in Sand is part of what it does. So Surf, you just find out. And if the switch into Skarm, then going back to Snorlax doesn't do anything. So, I don't know, I don't agree with that move at all. I mean, Snorlax is nice against other waters, but along with things like Celebi, who you also want to find out how much HP investment it's running, and Blissey, and with how common Refresh Milotic is, then other like water types are not going to really scare Milo, especially with full health Lax in the back. So the advantage you gain by switching to Snorlax is basically nil. And if you're going to have to deal with Skarmory one way or another with these two anyway, so would you prefer that you Surf and put it in Magneton range 100%, or you go to Snorlax? So I don't think the advantage was good there. So I think McMeghan made the right move by just throwing out a Surf, helping inform a game plan. I think Tama was really eager after that. I mean, the crit sucked. We're going to assume it's a bulky Tar since it's Rock Slide and Focus Punch, which suggests either max HP for attacks or sub. But yeah, I don't think that was good. Yeah, he has Scarm, so now there could be a Magneton here. So yeah, I think that was just the better move. And it doesn't look like he's going to Magneton yet, so he's going to have Spikes down. If he's going to run like his third Magneton with Claydol again. Yeah, it's... and Tama intelligently goes for one Spike and then Roar to preserve his health. Two Spikes, if you can't get the third, really sucks. So he would have had to, like... if he went for the second Spike, he should have probably gone for the third and then had to switch out Milotic. And who knows how well he deals with Milotic. Because the Spike wasn't necessarily because Tyranitar or Skarmory was his best switch to Milotic. It was just because he wants to exert some offensive pressure in exchange for losing his Tyranitar for nothing. So he roars out and reveals Tyranitar, and that switch in is Flygon. So it looks like he's running something not so stallish, more on the offensive side. Could be like Superman. So Fire Blast. This is a mixed Tyranitar, and he does. I mean, yeah, he Earthquakes and gets Ice Beamed into dust. The Tyranitar doesn't take that much damage. And what's really unfortunate about that is that against a mixed T-Tar, if you're facing a mixed T-Tar and you want to check for Crunch with Flygon, then you can go to your own physical T-Tar, because physical T-Tar generally has the leg up on that. But he couldn't because his T-Tar was gone. There are all sorts of ugly ramifications to losing your Tar for nothing. But at least now... it's not like he did nothing, because now Tyranitar is in Zapdos range, and McMeghan reveals Steelix. So the Magneton just seems more and more of a fit. But for now, we don't know. So Skarmory is just a super free Steelix switch, and he hasn't shown much besides the mixed Tar that can really deal with it necessarily. I mean, prevent it from protecting up and whirlwinding and all that good stuff. And he might want to Zapdos might want to grass or ice and kind of like force Steelix to do something, so McMeghan decides to play it safe and just HP Rock. Doesn't do much, but... So now the question is, Tama go for the second spike? No, he roars aggressively. Very nice move. Second spike, if you can't get the third, really tends to suck. So he's going to just roar and keep up offensive pressure, and he reveals a Metagross. So without the lefties, I mean, it could be mixed, but it's likelier that this is Choice Band just to really blow up Skarm. And the nice thing here with Steelix and Metagross is that you can lose Metagross with its powerful explosion to chunk through whatever you need, and you'll still have Steelix's rock checking ability. Which is something that a lot of teams, like Metagross, Suicune offense kind of stuff, like Metagross blows something up and then the opposing Tyranitar or Arrow becomes a lot more dangerous. So that is nice. He Meteor Mashes and misses. And now Tama goes for the spike, and that was kind of a risky one considering that he was very likely to be 2-hit KO'd, but I guess the alternative was just, keep roaring, and I don't think that was bad, but now he, with a little luck, he gets to have his cake and eat it too, and now he's going to have his third spike. So I think McMeghan just stays in and goes for HP Rock here, because he doesn't want to switch around, and he just wants to keep dinking Skarm down so that everything will finish it off. And so that Tama takes advantage of that and gets his third spike, because he can live 2 of those. So got a little fortune for the T-Tar crit. And now he's going to roar away. And here comes Mence. Is it banded? It's banded. So, he doesn't have Protect, and the reason for that might be he wants to run Psychic, Drill Peck, and he doesn't want to, so he would run Spike's Roar, Toxic, and Drill Peck. He doesn't want to give up Toxic for, like, Waters and Tyranitar, so that's why he might not have protected there, just because, which I think if he had it, he probably would have used it, because more Sand, he doesn't really have a great switch. He could have protected on pretty much everything, because Tyranitar is now dead to Spikes, and having the ability to actually switch into Steelix later might be useful, especially because he reveals a second Electric type in Jolteon. So now, here's the money move. Do you roar and rack up damage, which is going to hurt everything, or do you just go for the safe HP Ice, which is honestly really safe, because Lix is going to take this much %, and he's almost surely going to have a Gengar. This is looking like UD's team, which is quite well known and it's very powerful. But yeah, you would run Gengar here, and that's a great offensive tool against Steelix, and harasses pretty much everything with Sand down. Again, having T-Tar would be really good, but I think HP Ice is the safe move, and he just goes for the Roar! Yeah, maybe it's HP Grass Jolteon, but even then, I don't know. I think Baton Passing would have, I don't know. But yeah, I think that was McMeghan chose to go for Rock Slide because he's like, alright, well, this is almost dead. Zapdos and Jolteon and the Gengar last, Mence is going to be useful, and I don't want him roaring around my actually important Pokemon, so I'm just going to minimize my damage. Honestly, in retrospect, I thought he would just go for, he would sack his T-Tar to Spikes instead of, you know, risking Steelix or anything, or risking Mence, because Mence can still get a big hit. I mean, it's possible that it's faster than Zapdos, and I mean, he can finish off Skarm and pretty much force a KO next time, or at least a ton of damage. Basically, Mence can still be useful, T-Tar can't, and this way you take all the guesswork out of the equation. But yeah, Jolteon goes down. I think that was unnecessary. It was an aggressive move because he's behind, but yeah, I don't know if he needed to do that. So now Gengar comes in, and now Gengar is really going to scare stuff. And now T-Tar gets sacked. So the question is, well, no, he goes to Metagross, which, uh-oh. Now, if this is a Fire Punch Gar, that might take it out. If it's a Fire Punch Gar on this team, it's going to have a ton of special attack. So let's just assume max. And let's assume a 30 special attack IV because it could be running HP Grass. So let's assume a Choice Bander. I mean, Fire Punch, yeah, but it's not going to be max HP, but let's just say 136-ish. I think this is generally going to give you an accurate picture, but yeah, I don't know if I trust this roll. That's not quite enough. And the reason why you can't trust it is because you gotta, I don't know, you can't really go for the because you need Gengar and Zapdos both to finish off these other guys. So he doesn't risk the Fire Punch. He goes for Rock Slide. So good move. And now he goes back to Gengar, finishing off that to finish it off with Fire Punch, while not dying. So that was intelligent. And he doesn't get the roll. And the Rock Slide is going to take him out with Sand, because that is a minus defense Gengar. See, as we see with this banded Rock Slide thing, then it's almost surely not going to do 96. But with minus defense, which it could very well be with Explosion or Dynamic Punch, or for that, and you want the neutral attack for that, then he decided, well, I want to take a Zapdos T-Bolt or something, or like the Tar Pursuit, or like a Blissey Ice Beam, or various Surfs and Hydro Pumps. Then he decided to go for that, and now suddenly Rock Slide is really likely to take him out. So, and now it's looking like McMeghan wins, because unless Zapdos does some truly insane stuff, like crit pairs galore, so. Alright, and McMeghan is the champion of the 5th Advanced Cup. So, congratulations, McMeghan. Very well done to Tama. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Oh, a little reveal. I don't know if he still kept this set, but this is originally a Crash and Boom Bang team with Belly Drum, Self-Destruct, and Focus Punch Snorlax to remove Snorlax, so that the 2-choice banners and Steelix could shine. And this was originally a Vaporeon, so that was a McMeghan change. But, yeah, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.